So glad you're with us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less. And don't let anyone ever rip you off. Speaking of rip-offs, I don't know if you know this, we answer calls off the air 45 hours a week. It's a free service of the Clank Howard Show, and our center director of Team Clark has been so frustrated about the calls that we're getting in Team Clark from people who are getting ripped off by supposed student loan refis. So I want to tell you in today's Clarkrageous moment how to avoid getting ripped off when somebody pitches you on how they're going to make your student loans better for you. And coming up in a half hour, credit reports are still not accurate. And the problems that it's causing people, the problems are just ridiculous. I'm going to talk about what things you need to know to protect your own reputation as it comes to credit, getting a job, or even getting insurance. It's coming your way in 30 minutes. Our web address, clark.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. How many people among adults in the United States are running balances on credit cards? Latest guesstimates, somewhere around 130 or so million people are running balances on credit cards. Now, as I've said, nobody ever has gotten rich paying interest to Visa or MasterCard. Doesn't work. But I want to share with you something in a study that involved a lot of cooperation from different organizations, the Urban Institute, the Financial Protection, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, among others. Thousands of people the research was done on, that there are certain things that you can do that will make a difference in how much debt you have. And one of the things they found was absolutely true was to stop using a credit card for little dinky purchases. In fact, one of the things that the folks found at the Urban Institute was that if they could get you to no longer use a credit card for items of less than $20, that it would reduce by a meaningful amount the balances you owed on credit cards. So the point is, and I've talked about this before, that when I work with couples that are in debt, but they have what I consider to be enough income that the debt makes no sense, I put them on a cash allowance. And I don't limit it to $20 or less. Everything they do out and about, they got to pay cash for. There's a difference. If I pull out my wallet right now, I'm pulling it out on your radio dial from left to right, and I go into my wallet and I pull out, well, what comes out right away? Gosh, I'm a splurging person. A $5 bill. I thought it would be a 1. I pull out Abe Lincoln here on the 5. And I go to buy something with this 5, I feel it. I absolutely feel it. On the other hand, if I pull out a piece of plastic, even a piece of trash, fake Visa or fake MasterCard, a debit card, I don't feel it. So credit cards by themselves are not evil. They're not anything rotten. But they do affect our behavior. So doing this thing of anytime you're buying something for less than $20, paying cash for it, you'll be more cautious, you'll be more careful, and you'll spend less money. Now, the other thing that was interesting that the Urban Institute and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau figured out was that if you allowed yourself to be nagged a couple times a month to remember to only pay cash for those items less than $20, you're more likely to do it than if it's just, wouldn't it be nice if you did that and you didn't have a nag, an electronic nag? So that family member or friend, or you can set one up to automatically send you a message twice a month, who'll nag you. Start nagging yourself and start using cash for those small purchases. It'll make a difference. It'll give you control. Because remember, the only amount of credit card debt you want to have is no credit card debt. Carl is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Carl.
Hey, Clark. How you doing?
Great, thank you, Carl. You want to get rid of pay TV.
Well, I want to get my football. I'm a fanatic like you are, except I like both pro and college, right? I'm kind of 50-50. I like them both a lot.
Well, I watched the college game. Do you know my beef on the college game?
What?
I got one thing about the college game that just really gets to me, okay? The refereeing is not anywhere where it needs to be. You know, the pro game, ref's going to mess up from time to time. It's a fast, complicated game. But the colleges, the refereeing is atrocious.
Okay.
So that's my beef. I'm sorry. I just had to say that, get that off my chest.
All right. Well, hey, you know, I'm currently paying the cable monster about $180 a month. I just got bumped up about $40. I had a 2-year contract. So for $180 a month, I get most of the sports channels I could ever want, probably way more than I want. Includes ESPN. You know, and for me, it's a little bit important to get the Big Ten network. How do I save some money? Or is $180 a month to get, you know, pretty much all the sports you would ever want? Is that maybe a good price? Because sometimes I think about what it would cost to go into one of these games.
Sure.
And
yeah, you know, you can always, if you look at the equivalent, what does it cost to go to a major college football game or to a pro game for, let's say, 2 people versus what you're talking about paying per month? And it's no contest. What you're paying per month for the pay TV package is a superior choice for your wallet. But they're not truly compatible experiences because going to a game is really a different experience. But you said you're out of contract, right?
Yep, I went to month and I paid like $10 more. So I'm ready for another choice.
All right, so
if there's one.
You're with a cable company right now?
Yep.
All right, so have you checked to see what you can do with Dish and DirecTV?
Well, you know, I went into Costco and looked at their DirecTV package, and after some discussion, there were a few incentives, but in the end, it wasn't really much cheaper. I mean, maybe for a while, maybe for a year, it was going to be $40 a month cheaper, something like that. So I wasn't sure it was worth it because they're going to have to mount a dish in my backyard and so on.
Well, you know what I like about what Dish is doing right now is they're allowing you to create your own program packages. So if the sports is what you really care about, you start at a base of $40 a month and you build from there. And so you could build what they call skinny on traditional channels and heavy on the sports, regional networks like you mentioned, Big Ten and all that. And I bet you'd end up spending a lot less money.
Okay.
And I'd give it a try. Now, I could be wrong, but I'd give that a try and see if that would help you out.
How do you do it? You've often talked about watching games simultaneously and all that.
So that is a great question. So I got a deal for DirecTV and Internet combined that was guaranteed $80 a month for 2 years, and it came with NFL Sunday Ticket. So I watched the Sunday Ticket on my laptop, on my Chromebook, and I can watch all the games all over the place, plus whatever's on broadcast, and I'm paying $80 including the Internet.
That's nice.
But I don't get any of the regional sports networks or anything like that. So I'm getting less than what you're talking about. But
okay, thanks.
I'd look at the choices, and I don't even know if a combo deal like that would work for you with getting Internet tied in with satellite. But you may find that you can cut that 180 down maybe by as much as, if you look at the Flex Pack from Dish Network, maybe you'd be able to cut it $100 a month. Should be real money. Patricia's with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Patricia.
Hello, Clark.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for taking my call.
So it's very important in your case that you're great. You know why?
Why is that?
Because you got a plan for really long life because you're in such great shape. That's important here, isn't it?
It is. It is.
How come that's so important in this case?
Well, Clark, I need to get some retirement going.
Okay, that's not something you've been able to get around to yet?
Yes. Hadn't been on the ball.
Well, whenever you start is when you start with saving for retirement. What do you have available to you? Like, are you working somewhere that they offer a 401k or equivalent retirement plan?
Yes.
And so that plan, do they offer any employer match?
I would have to look further into it, but I'm sure that they do.
Okay. So that is where you get started.
Okay.
Is you throw yourself into that employer plan. And if you haven't ever saved before, I hate to ask a lady this, but kind of give me an approximate age that you are.
I'm in my 50s.
50s. All right. So it means that if you can afford to, you're going to need to save a really significant amount of your salary in the 401k, but you can't start there because it would be a shock to your wallet if you went from not saving for retirement to all of a sudden saving a huge amount.
Uh-huh.
So I'd like for you to do this in a modified series of baby steps. Ready?
Okay.
Right. I would start by putting in your employer plan up to what you need to pick up the employer match. And at many places of work, that would mean you're going to have to start saving 6% of your pay. And then pick up that employer match. And that 6% is going to be a shock from zero.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I talk about stepping up what you're saving every 6 months. In your case, I would go to the 6% and wait a year. And then 1 year from when you start depositing money into the retirement plan at work, go to 7%.
Okay.
And then every 6 months after that, go up another percent.
Okay.
Before you know it, in your case, in like 2 years' time, you'll be saving a dime of every dollar you make, plus picking up all the employer match.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Wait, I got one other thing to tell you.
Okay.
When they hand you that retirement plan kit at your place of work, or they tell you where to go look online, there's going to be a confusing array of choices to invest in. And a lot of people just shut down and don't go any further because it just is so confusing. So do the easiest thing of all, and that's pick the target retirement fund choice in the plan, where you pick a year closest to when you're thinking you're going to retire, and all the money you contribute plus what the employer contributes should go right into that. And if you get into the process and you get confused, Patricia, please call me back and we'll walk it through and talk it through. It's time for today's Clark Rageous Moment, which concerns calls that we're getting repeatedly in our off-air center, Team Clark, where you can get free off-the-air advice Monday to Friday, 9 hours a day. A lot of calls coming in concerning student loans, and I got a special warning for you in this Clark Rageous Moment.
Scams, rip-offs, outrages. It's a Clark Rageous Moment.
So there was a lot of solicitation going on. The people who are in student loans getting solicited to refi those student loans, and the people calling you are not drawing a distinction with you between federal and private student loans. Very rarely, almost never, is there a situation where you would want to take a federal student loan and convert it through a supposed refi or consolidation into a private student loan? The reason is private student loans have caused terrible heartache and financial Armageddon for so many people. There are special protections in the federal student loan program that make it a preferable choice almost always. So you never want to throw a federal student loan into a new private loan, except, I said never, except in the rarest of circumstances, which are so rare, almost not worth mentioning. The second thing, people are being solicited to pay fees to outside, quote-unquote, services to handle moving federal student loans into the new payment platforms like revised pay-as-you-earn, income-based repayment, blah, 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 blah. You don't pay any outside service to help you move your federal student loans into a better payment platform. And student loans can be so confusing that it's easy to get hoodwinked, to get swindled, or to just get ripped off. So be very aware of what you have, what you owe, what kind of loan it is, and remember, don't mix and match private and federal into one refi.
Research has shown that sitting all day is bad for your health, but standing all day really isn't that much better for you. That's why it's so exciting to know that with Veridesk's height-adjustable standing desk solutions, you can stand when you want to and sit when you need to. Veridesk converts your existing desk or cubicle to a sit-stand workstation, and it allows you to raise from a seated to standing position in just seconds. It ships fully assembled, so there's no Allen wrenches or screwdrivers required. You just pull it out of the box, and you put it right there on your desk. There's no installation or fastening required. By using a Veridesk sit-stand desk, you make health and fitness a part of your workday, instead of just something that you do before or after work. You'll be more productive, you'll have less back pain, you'll have better energy, and it's likely to boost your metabolism. Plus, they've got different models you can choose from. So there's a Veridesk that will fit in your workspace, whether it's at home, the office, a corner office, a cubicle, a corner, even a full desk replacement. And they're all affordable. The models start at just $175. And here's the really cool part. If you're not sure the Veridesk is right for you, they have a 30-day risk-free guarantee, which lets you try it out in your home or office. And if you decide it's not for you, they'll arrange to pick it up. You don't have to do anything. To read the amazing reviews and find the model that's right for you, just go to Veridesk.com. That's V-A-R-I desk.com. Veridesk. Now here's an exclusive Podcast One killer clip from How I Got Here, talking with NBC's Tom Brokaw.
So they pressed and pressed and pressed, and then they came and said, you've got to move, and you've got to go to the White House because it's the beginning of Watergate, and Dan Rather's got a big leg up, and we need somebody to go in and compete against him. What I didn't know until later is that when I got to the White House, some of the fusty old-timers in there wrote a letter to the president of NBC News saying, you can't assign some kid from California to the White House in this big story. This is an outrage. Download new episodes now on the Podcast One app or subscribe at iTunes and PodcastOne.com.
Thanks for joining us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. On the web, we serve you at Clark.com. When you have a question, Clark.com/ask. There are organizations in this country that build dossiers on you, make big money from that dossier on you, but don't really care about you. You're just fodder for them selling off your dossier over and over again. Most common that we're familiar with are the three major credit bureaus: Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. The problem with these three bureaus is the inaccuracies on reports continue unabated. It is a terrible problem that, according to a federal study, 1 in 4 credit files have a significant error on them. Other studies find the number to be more like 1 in 3. But then in turn, these credit reports are taken as absolute fact, and they determine whether or not you can be approved for or what rate you'll pay for a car loan, credit card, mortgage loan, what you're going to pay for auto or homeowner's insurance, whether an employer is going to extend a job offer to you. So the inaccuracies are a big deal. My wife ends up with her file commingled with a guy who's in prison in Florida. I mean, doesn't that tell you something about these databases? And a Washington Post reporter wrote in first person about the problems that he's had with his credit, showing that he has 2 felony convictions. Well, it's somebody of a similar name, not him, but he can't get it corrected. Once it became a news story, suddenly the credit bureau fixed it. But that's precisely the point. You shouldn't have to have the power of a media outlet to get an error fixed. The credit bureaus need to get their act together. The big problem is most of the time we don't even know the errors there till it's crunch time, looking for that job or trying to get that mortgage or whatever. That's why it's so important that you know what's on your credit so that you can go through that hit or miss process that will take you a while to get the errors fixed on your report. Because remember, the credit bureaus don't care. You're not their customer. You're just a bother. So you've got to be your own advocate until laws change that require the credit bureaus to actually care whether anything they're reporting is accurate, because it's not their thing. So you got to make it your thing. First thing is federal law does require that you be able to obtain a free copy of each of your credit reports once each year. You can do that at annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com. All the others you see advertised on TV, they're fake. The only official source to get your credit report for free by federal law, annualcreditreport.com. Go through it. When you find errors, you challenge those errors. Because those lies will harm you so many ways. It's a sucker punch to your wallet and reputation. You've heard me probably in the past talk about Credit Karma and using Credit Karma. You should register there so you can track what's going on with your credit, see your scores. If your score suddenly takes a big tumble, maybe it's because there's some error on there. Credit Karma, you can see your free credit score whenever you want, no strings attached. Lowell is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Lowell.
Hello, Clark. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have a question about 529 funds. It's kind of an unusual question. I've not heard you address it, or for that matter, anybody else.
Oh, I love that. Throw a challenge my way.
And I don't think you'll be able to answer it definitively because it calls for some speculation. But what got me thinking, I'm a big fan of 529 funds. I have 7 of them myself. And
you have 7 kids?
Well, no, I have 3 on my kids, 2 on my grandkids, and 2 with some twins that a good friend adopted.
Wow. You are a generous soul, aren't you, Lowell?
Well, a quick story. We're trying to think what to give them on the anniversary or on the day that they were finally legal adopted. And my wife, of all people who has no interest in finances, said, well, what about one of those college funds? So for $25, you can open a fund and just contribute a little bit on holidays and so forth. So, but anyway, getting to my question, what generated my question was I saw a list published recently of, I think, 57 colleges and universities, and it was called a shame list. And predominantly, I think, Christian colleges, maybe exclusively. And they made the list because they had requested Title IX exemptions from the current administration's regulations regarding the LGBT community. And it got me wondering, boy, would the day come when maybe those types of universities might be excluded from accepting 529 funds.
Wow, that would be a real shock. It's possible that schools might lose some access to federal funding in a dispute like that, but as far as access to 529 money, no, because that would require a congressional act to say that 529, that schools that did not comply with certain parts of Title IX would suddenly be ineligible institutions for students to use 529 money at. I can't picture that happening ever. Okay. So you asked me to speculate, and I would say the odds of that are so low they're almost not able to be put into an odd based.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a little better. I kind of thought that, but our country has taken such a 180-degree turn on this in a few short years, and it'll be 10, 15 years or so before my grandkids and so are starting to use these funds.
Well, with anything that involves public policy, you shouldn't ever say never, never, but that would be very unlikely because there's a overriding public policy goal of getting people to save whatever they can for a kid's college education. And 529 plans are like a safe harbor where you can save tax-free and spend the money tax-free. And you don't want to send mixed messages about people saving for college. So
okay.
I would not, of the things, the possibilities to worry about, I wouldn't put that on the list of possibles.
Okay. A quick other question that reminds me, I quite often have people question, well, maybe the government will someday start taxing Roth funds, and that one I put down as not likely. I think they're far more likely to raise the tax rates on ordinary income and traditional IRAs and 401ks before they tax something essentially a second time. Would you agree with that as well?
Yes, the people who might end up, if the political will was there may be an attempt at some point to punish people in the top 1 or 2% of income earners with their Roth money. But Roths are such a great opportunity for people to save money that I think you'd see a massive public uprising if anybody started messing with the tax-free accounts and decided they were going to make them taxable.
Okay.
So again, when I give advice based on the information available today. And if you look at the idea of respect for law, you would not have any worry that down the road they would say, we were just kidding.
Right.
But, there are circumstances in the world, not so much here, but there have been things in the world where promises like that have been legally instituted have been broken. But I'm not losing any sleep about people playing games with your or my Roth money either. Al is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Al, you want to talk about Apple Pay?
I do. I had just signed up for it with an iPhone 6S with the fingerprint reader, and I'm curious what your thoughts are about security. And it seems fairly secure, just the process you have to go through.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what you thought about it.
Well, both Apple Pay and Google Pay are almost certainly more secure platforms than using a traditional credit card. Because the process of verification you go through for each transaction and the way they're processed makes it far more difficult for a crook to be able to intercept and have usable information. Apple had a security flaw, I feel like it was early last year or something, where Apple Pay was not secure, and that was patched. So I think it's a great idea, as long as you like using the platform, to use your iPhone 6 to do Apple Pay.
Right, and that's what it just seemed to be more secure, just because you do all the verification directly with your bank in the phone company, and and then there's no more access to the credit card after that. So
exactly, because with the criminal not having access to that information, if they intercept at the retailer or wherever, I think it's a great way to pay for things and not have as much worry.
Great. Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure, and you're gonna hear more and more about alternative payment platforms because everybody's rushing into this space, and nobody has a dominant position because the mistake people have made is they've done what's called walled garden. Like Apple, instead of making Apple Pay work on any device, or Google, instead of making it work on any device, making it work in their own walled gardens is a terrible error. Banks setting up their version, making it work only for their customers. The way this is really going to work out is when it works across platforms and you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I switched from Samsung to whatever, and now it doesn't work because Samsung has their own pay platform called Samsung Pay. Is being proprietary in this area harms the market and harms security. Greg is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Clark. I really enjoy your show.
Thank you, Greg.
I wanted to ask you a question about, I've been researching this Internet of Things and these memes, MEMS.
Yeah.
And what was your opinion of these sensors? And I'd like to invest in it if you have any companies in mind.
So there's no doubt that what we call the IoT, the Internet of Things, is going to change so many things we do every day, and people wonder what that means. Like, these doorbells that are popping up all over the place. What are they called?
Right.
I forgot the brand that's most popular.
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, where you ring a doorbell, and on somebody's cell phone, they see you standing there even if they're halfway around the world.
Right.
The Nest thermostats, the way cars are having connectivity, that's all part of the Internet of Things. So, it's called Ring. How did I forget that? I said ring the doorbell, and I couldn't remember Ring. Isn't that funny? So, yes, all this is going to be very much part of the future. Picking winners out of it, gosh, I have no successful strategy for that because so often the companies that are the groundbreakers end up being nobody. Do you remember a company called Replay TV?
I do not. No.
They're the company that developed the television DVR.
Oh, okay.
And they're a trivia question, just like it was just now. And for a while, who ended up dominant in that space with the DVR? A company called TiVo.
Right.
And now TiVo is like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I used to have a TiVo because now there are all these other DVRs out there. So often the company that had first mover advantage that developed something is not the one that ends up with the gold at the end of the day.
Okay.
So when you make a bet like that, you have to look at it as a bet, if you think of it this way, Greg, that a company may have a great idea. You may love that idea. You may even be willing to back that idea with some of your own money. But whether they're going to turn out to be successful or not, who knows? Brian is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Brian, you want to talk Wealthfront?
Yes, I do. I heard about them by reading a tech blog, somewhat of a tech blog, and it's supposed to have been started by some technologists formerly from Apple. It uses computer algorithms to decide what you should invest in, and it's billed as a set it and forget it type service.
And I'm a big fan of it and its arch rival Betterment.
Okay.
So what they do is they use computer modeling to try to figure out what is the right investing strategy for you, and they do it at extremely low cost.
It is low.
And it's, if I remember right, is it a quarter of a point plus the cost of the investments they put you in?
They're just saying a quarter of a point, and I don't think there's there are other buy and sell fees.
Yeah, it is a very impressive business model, and they and Betterment, and they each do things a little differently, have caused every company in the financial and investing industry to come up with some form of artificial intelligence to either in part guide people for investing or to offer a complete automated thing like Wealthfront and Betterment.
I see.
So I love the idea because most people either aren't interested enough or intimidated by the whole investing process or have trouble getting the mix of investments right.
Right.
And these things do all that, and they do it at very low cost.
It sure is low. Yes, I'm at a big name brokerage house now, and I've been thinking about making a change for a long time.
Well, if you're at a full commission stockbroker, I would give them the heave-ho, kick them to the curb.
Okay.
So dip your toes in first, though. Try some with one of these outfits. See if you like how it works. If you do, then do it. Maybe you go all in at that point.
You know, there's something about TrueCar that a lot of people don't even know. Here it is. Using TrueCar can also help you buy a used car. That's right. In fact, there are over 500,000 pre-owned vehicles available from TrueCar's certified dealers nationwide. So whether you're looking to buy a brand new car or a used car, you can get all the upfront pricing information that empowers you. You can also get discounts off the list price for used cars and a totally better buying experience through the TrueCar certified dealer network. That's where you see what other people paid for the car that you want, so you know you're getting a fair price and you can feel confident. And with TrueCar, you connect with a local certified dealer of your choice, so you can enjoy a quick, easy buying experience. You can use the TrueCar website or the TrueCar app, so it's easy to find the new or used car that you want. You just take your guaranteed savings certificate to a TrueCar certified dealer, and you'll save money on that used car. And if you're buying new, the average TrueCar user saves $3,279 off MSRP. Over 2 million people have already bought their cars through the TrueCar certified dealer network. So if you're ready to buy a new or used car, visit TrueCar.com or take it with you by downloading the TrueCar app and enjoy a better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clank Howard Show, where it's all about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. Our web address, clark.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. You also have access to off-air information for free. You can talk with a member of our team 9 hours each weekday at clark.com. You can see how to call in for that free off-the-air advice from a member of our team. Coming up in a half hour, we're going to talk about you talking about what? About money. To the one you love. I got info for you that I want you to take to heart so you can improve the relationships of the heart. I want to talk about something that came on my radar about 6 weeks ago when somebody stopped me in Costco and was all upset because his frequent flyer account had been looted and emptied. And it turns out that this is an increasing problem where criminal rings have discovered that there's an enormous value to breaking into people's frequent flyer accounts, redeeming the points for front-of-the-plane international tickets, and then before you know it, before you realize, your frequent flyer miles are gone. So this is a terrible issue for people who travel a lot for work, bank a lot of miles, maybe have a credit card that's a frequent flyer mileage card that ties in with an airline frequent flyer program. And those points, once they're stolen, you're relying upon the kindness of an airline, not the kindest people in the world, to potentially restore your points because your account was compromised. And so one of the issues, and the guy who writes about the travel industry for the Wall Street Journal, Scott McCartney, wrote a story about this as well. No relation to Paul McCartney. Anyway, what Scott wrote about is that this is easy, low-hanging fruit for criminals because the frequent flyer miles can be redeemed for an incredibly expensive airline ticket. Now, I am seeing at travel sites, I'm seeing a lot of ads pop up offering really great prices for first class and business class international travel. And I can't help but think that this has to be potentially fencing operations trying to sell frequent flyer miles that they've stolen and turn those into cash. You do not want to be in a position where you are unwittingly essentially receiving stolen property, because try to imagine you're stopped by the police or security personnel or airline personnel, and they say, how do you know blah, blah, blah? And you say, who? And there you are traveling on their stolen points, stolen miles. It's been really easy for these miles to be stolen because airlines have never done much effort at securing accounts. The security system for signing in is pretty lame, and it's because it never occurred to anybody that this would become a source of theft. But I know this is hard to believe. An international first class ticket can be as much as $20,000 one way. Did you hear that amount? 20 grand one way. Business class tickets, it's not uncommon for them to be $6,000 to $8,000 one way. So if somebody comes along and says, hey, I can sell you an international business class ticket from blah, blah to blah, blah, you always want to go see blah, blah, right? I can sell you one of those for $2,000 for a last-minute trip, and you're a business traveler who normally flies in that kind of comfort with a lie flat bed, and somebody's going to sell it to you at a fraction of the cost. You should be aware something's not right, and be wary before you get involved in that kind of activity. Is for you, with your frequent flyer account, if you have an account with a massive number of miles, you want to know what's going on with it. I downloaded an app to my smartphone that I'll talk about more future time, tell you all the things it does, that notifies me when there's a change of activity in one of my mileage accounts. Because I have one on an international airline that I have an obscene number of points on, and it would not be a good day for me if those points took a walk. Oh, and having a better password and username, of course, but gosh, we say that about everything, right? Bob is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Bob.
Hello.
Bob, you want to talk 529 plans?
That's right. I have a 529 college savings plan with one grandchild beneficiary. I have several grandchildren, and I had planned.
So why do you only have one favorite grandchild? The others you're just leaving without the college?
No, I had planned to redirect some of the money to the other grandchildren as I assess the needs. Maybe it'd be equal among all of them, or maybe it'd be more to one than the other, depending upon whether one of them had worked some and was saving for college, or what their goals were, or the cost of the college they selected, or whatever. But I have heard that it was dangerous, or it endangered a grandchild's ability to get a financial aid package if a grandparent owned a large 529 plan.
All right, so let me tell you how this works, because it's really kind of weird. Under today's rules, depending on how a school would interpret a financial aid package, a 529 account that's owned by a parent, for the benefit of their child, is looked at as being a miniaturized effect on qualifying for financial aid. But a 529 account under today's rules, and again, this can change as we move through the years, that's in the hands of a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or even a non-family member, is treated differently in terms of qualification for financial aid, with that money considered to be a significant factor in family assets available to pay for school.
But now, is that only after it is used by the child?
No, you have to declare that the money's there on the financial aid application, so it becomes a factor up front. So let's talk through strategies. So is it a son or daughter who has these kids? Or is it more than one child of yours?
Well, it's several grandchildren by both son of mine and daughter of mine.
Okay. All right. So that brings me to the key point. Do you really trust your son and your daughter and how they'd handle the money if you were to gift money to each of them? They set up 529 accounts for each of the grandkids that are their kids.
My problem is I've already put the money in a 529 plan.
Now, the money in the 529 plan, you want to put for the benefit of the oldest grandchild, right?
Right.
But in the event that there's an issue with financial aid, you're allowed to change the beneficiary designation once a year, and you could change it to the youngest grandchild who's not anywhere near school.
Right.
And then late in the oldest grandchild's education, you could change the designation back and then pay eligible college expenses, let's say, as a senior, or if that grandchild goes to grad school.
If I had a grandchild that was filling out financial aid forms, they wouldn't even know that there's money in a 529 plan for them. That
is a very good, valid point. But it is a question that comes up, and it is possible that there would be money that a kid would not know. And if they filled out a financial aid form in good faith, not aware that there was such money, they would not have committed any act of fraud.
And I thought that the only time it was counted against them was when it was actually used, when it was taken out of the plan. That
is a great question. That depends on the formula the school is using, as I understand it.
Okay.
But one thing in particular, 529 plans are set up that there be a separate account for each child.
I knew that.
And having the money all in one account, you're a little hamstrung, and you're limited with the beneficiary designation change once a year.
Okay. All right.
But any future money you want to put aside would probably be better utilized being put in the parent's name, your son or your daughter's name, for the benefit of one of their kids.
Okay. Thank you.
But you're a generous soul to take care of the kids. Heidi is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Heidi.
Hi, Clark. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Heidi. You have a problem that is becoming more common in the United States as more people choose to live without owning a car.
Correct. Yes. I'm going on vacation and I need to rent a car, and normally I own a car, so I have car insurance, but I don't own a car at this point in my life. And I need to get car insurance when I rent a car. So how do I approach that?
That is a great question, and one that I'm telling you, the auto insurance industry is going to have to adjust because there are so many people like yourself who are choosing not to own a car anymore. Now, there are services popping up specifically for this issue. There's one you may have seen on the web that is the one that's most well-known, called InsureMyRentalCar.com.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, I haven't.
And they offer a variety of coverages you can get from them. And so that is an alternative potentially. Also, if you have a major credit card that provides coverage when you rent a car, that would be of some help. Where these things may not cover and where you have to be hyper aware is not just the issue of repairing the car, but also the liability aspect if there's an accident that is your fault.
Correct, yeah.
That you don't have that. So you can buy pretty inexpensive, if you buy in advance before you go rent a car, you can buy coverage that will cover you in the event of an accident and the damage to the car. But always look for the liability. And the issue of liability is one that if you cannot find a policy that will cover that, you actually do need to buy the liability coverage from the car rental agency.
Okay.
But I think if you in advance, and InsureMyRentalCar.com is just the best known, if you were to do a Google search or whatever search engine you like, and you put in like insure rental car or insuring rental cars, you'll see a number of companies that quote you for various scenarios, giving you the coverage that you'll need to protect yourself.
Okay, great. I just didn't know if there was a good way to tell if they were legitimate companies on the internet. You know,
I have never had a complaint about one of these third-party companies that people buy rental car coverage from in advance. That doesn't mean I'm not going to, as this becomes more and more of an issue with so many people choosing not to own cars anymore.
Right.
But I haven't had any complaints yet.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, I appreciate your help.
All right. Best to you. And how is it living without a car?
It's nice. I'm in a city that has really good transportation and subways, and so I really don't have to. It's been about 4 years, but I do miss it when I go home. That's the first thing I do is get in the car and roll the windows down and go.
That's funny. Austin is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Austin, your credit's not the best right now. Is that right?
Yeah, Clark, that's right.
But at the same time, you got an offer. Was it in the mail for a credit card?
Yeah, I've been getting a ton of different credit card offers that I was pre-screened for.
And that's not a surprise to me. The credit card companies have put a big effort this year on solicitations of people whose credit is not great. Tell me where you are on the scale. Do you have an idea of what your credit score is approximately?
If I were to guess, it wouldn't be any more than 550.
Okay, so does that mean you've had a lot of collections or a bankruptcy or something like that?
No, not necessarily. I've had a student credit card for the past couple of years since I was 19, and I have never fully paid it off all the way. I would always have money in it, but I would never fully pay it off.
But you're not delinquent on it, are you?
No, I've always been putting money into it every time I get a paycheck.
Well, then maybe your credit's much better than you think.
That's very possible. I haven't checked in a very long time.
All right, there's a website I talk about from time to time. I want you to go look at Credit Karma.
I use Credit Karma. It usually says that I don't have enough lines of credit to warrant a credit score.
All right, so these other people are finding you somehow. The card, there must be a particular card that's intriguing you. What terms come with it?
There's 5% cash back on certain categories, but 1% cash back automatically on everything else.
Does it have an annual fee?
Not for the first year.
And then how much is the fee after that?
Ooh, well, let me double check. It says there's no annual fee. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. So who knows why they specifically have targeted you? Because it is a pre-screen. I know there's a bit of a gamble putting in an application for one because they can still turn you down.
Yeah.
But they know the track record you have with this other card potentially. I would give it a try, and then I'd like you to call me back, remind me of the conversation we had, and let me know what happened, and we'll talk about if it worked, great. If it didn't, we'll talk about your next best option.
Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans proudly supports this podcast. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. You see, Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. Hate searching through stacks of old files and paperwork? Well, with Rocket Mortgage, you can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button. It helps you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. Even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/save. That's quickenloans.com/SAVE. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
It's great to have you here on the Clank Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. On the web, we serve you at Clark.com. When you have a question, Clark.com/ask. I had a question for you. If you're in a relationship, steady, with a partner, you're married, whatever it is, do you keep your finances secret from your partner, significant other, or spouse? More often than not, people do keep secrets. And that is very, very dangerous to your relationship. I don't want love to be harmed by you feeling like you got to keep secrets about money from the person you share your life with. And a year ago, I talked about a survey that TD Bank does, and I've got the new numbers from them now. And among baby boomers, half avoid conversations, roughly half, avoid conversations about money with their spouse or partner. Interestingly enough, millennials think completely differently. Only 1 in 4 millennials run away from conversations about money. I don't know what caused that generational difference, but let me tell you, don't keep secrets. It is harder for a lot of couples to talk about money with each other than it is for them to talk about what goes on, well, behind closed doors. So you want to build trust in a relationship, not build barriers. At the same time, I have come to believe more and more from the years of counseling couples that you should have his money, her money, their money. That you don't want to have all your funds commingled. And it's a mistake that has serious consequences if one of the people in a couple passes away, or if the relationship or marriage disintegrates. You want to have separate financial identities and a common one as well. The common one I find works very well, where you agree to a household budget and there's a household account that each of you and you agree how it'll be funded. Some couples it's based on how much each of you make, but whatever works, you have a household account where you pay rent or mortgage, you pay common household expenses, utilities, that kind of thing. But then you each have your own separate credit identity and your own separate savings and or checking account. But communicating is core and key. I think about in a different era, when my father died in the 1980s, my mom had never taken any interest in finance, had no credit in her own name, knew nothing about the money, did not care about it, and as she's grieving over the death of my dad, her husband, she's also having to learn from scratch how to handle money. That does not work. Today, it's less common that there'd be a situation like my mom, but that kind of thing was what our grandparents dealt with for most people, in my case, parents, and how you and I need to think about money is it's a shared responsibility and a shared knowledge. And so please discuss, because otherwise you create resentment. When money's short and you're questioning each other's priorities, what you're spending money on and all that, that can really eat at a relationship. And if debt is in a relationship or marriage, that can tear at the fabric of it. So please talk with each other, and not out of anger and not at a flashpoint when something's gone wrong. Really talk routinely, not obsessively, because that's not healthy either at the other extreme, but routinely. Troy is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hi, Troy.
Hi, Clark. I love your show.
Thank you very much. You want to help your wife out. What's going on with her?
Well, we'll help both of us out hopefully here. She has a large amount of school loans, and she's working, but our payment is really high. And I just went back to school full time, and I'm not really contributing as much as I would like to. And we'd like to lower our payment by refinancing her school loans.
There may be other strategies. So give me a ballpark figure here, please. What does she have? Are her loans all federal?
Federal, unsubsidized, private. She had to take out Grad Plus loans when she went to school. So
the Grad Plus, those are federal, right?
Yeah.
So what does she have total in federal borrowing?
It's about I think it's about 115, around that.
115 grand. How about private loans?
Probably around 25 to 30.
Okay. I'm glad those aren't reversed.
Yeah.
Because as you know, with the private loans, they don't work with you at all.
Yeah, right.
But the federal loans, you don't want to commingle the federal with the private.
Mm-hmm.
Because the federal loans, there are a number of strategies that are available to potentially lower the amount of the payments while you're in school.
Yeah.
Where it's based on a percent of not her income, but her disposable income, which is quite a bit less.
Okay. Well, it was suggested to us that for her federal loans, before refinancing, that we take a loan out on her 401k to try to pay some of that down, because we have 4 separate payments, that go out, and that would reduce it down to one payment by using our 401k, taking a loan out and paying that off.
So she has enough that she could borrow $140,000 against her?
No, it'd be about $18,000, and it would reduce our payments down to 1 instead of 4.
Oh, by doing the refinance, but the refinance would be into a single private loan?
Yes.
Wow, that's what interest rate would that private loan carry?
Well, we were hoping for around 4.5 or so.
Has someone offered you a private loan at that rate?
We have not gone that far.
Okay.
As to start looking for.
See, here's the tough thing. There are some situations where private loan lenders are giving rates that are at or below 5%,
mm-hmm.
but you have to have like a great income to debt ratio to make that happen, and overall debts that are reasonable. Otherwise, the rates end up not necessarily being lower. I'm much more comfortable in this case with the $115,000 in federal loans that your wife avail herself of the alternative payment options that would lower the current obligation. What does she do for a living?
She's a physician's assistant.
So as a PA, on the federal loan, she's potentially eligible for loan forgiveness on the federals after 10 years.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, her loan's set up for 10 years, and we pay about $2,000 a month, and it's really hurt us. So that wouldn't really help us, right?
Yeah, but if she redoes the loans with the feds, where she goes on, let's say, a 30-year payment schedule, and then essentially is just servicing interest for the next several years, at 10 years, the loans potentially are subject to forgiveness.
Okay.
Now, the forgiveness amount is taxed, but it's still a lot less money than paying the full amount on the loans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But the one thing I'd like for you to avoid is taking the federal loans from federal to private, because you give up all the flexibility permitted under the law.
Yeah, that was a big concern of ours, is losing that protection that the federal provides. So
go to ed.gov, the U.S. Department of Education website, and go read the briefings for borrowers. And then she should be able to work with the feds to reduce what she has to pay per month to give you breathing room in your life. And borrowing from the 401k is not the breathing room I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Clark. I really appreciate it.
And best to you in school. What are you going to study?
The same thing, actually. I'm going to be a physician assistant.
A family of PAs. Well, you know, you're so important. The PAs and nurse practitioners are the key to us dealing with the severe shortage in the country of primary care physicians.
Yep, it's a great job. I can't wait to get into it.
Wonderful. You're going to help people and you're going to help the country at the same time. Eric is with us on the Clank Howard Show. Hello, Eric.
Hi, Clark. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Eric.
It's a pleasure to speak with you. I've been a long-time listener.
Well, you have an odd situation that has only come up over the years, if I can remember, maybe twice.
Yeah, I thought it was odd as well.
You have something like, to call it lack of anything else, you have an orphan 401k.
Yeah, well, the company that I used to work for announced that they would be closing their doors. They let everybody go. Fortunately, 3 weeks later, I found a new job, so things worked out in that sense. But recently I got a letter from my old employer saying the 401k was going to be terminated and that I would need to find a new place for my retirement savings, or I could cash out, but I'd take the tax penalty on that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's a definite don't do.
Yeah, and so, but the thing is, my new job, I'm not eligible to roll over into my new employer's 401k plan yet.
So easy. The answer's so wonderful, okay?
Yeah.
All you have to do is open, even if you already have an IRA, you open an IRA you can open it with what I call my favorite children that I list on my investment guide at clark.com.
Okay.
Any of those firms, you can open one with them, and they open what is referred to as a receiving account, I think is what most of them call it. Where you open an account that you give them a statement from your from this going out of business employer's 401k plan, and they handle moving the money directly administratively from the going out of business 401k into your own IRA.
Okay.
And then there's no tax at all.
And somebody had also mentioned to me something called a rollover IRA. Would that be similar to a receiving account?
Yeah, it's called a rollover, but this is more often called a trustee-to-trustee transfer because the money never comes to you. And by it going directly from the failing employer's or failed employer's plan into your own IRA, there is zero tax consequence.
Oh, and sometimes you maybe have to put in a minimum amount to open the account?
No. When you're moving money, they go ahead and they open the shell account, the receiving account, knowing that you are moving this money to the IRA.
Okay.
So there's no minimum, there's no fees or anything like that. If you use one of the companies that I most often concentrate on are Charles Schwab, Fidelity Investments, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price.
Yes.
If you were to use Schwab or Fidelity, they have actual physical offices you can go to.
Okay.
And you can do one of the forms with them and take your statement from the former employer's 401k, and they'll handle everything.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And when I am eligible to join my new employer's 401k, I then can roll this into their plan without any consequences.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can either leave it, if you end up liking wherever you put it as an IRA, you can leave it there, or you will have the option, yes, of moving the money into the new employer's 401k. It'll be your choice. All tax-free. It's time for Ask Clark. That's where you post a question for me on Clark.com. And then our producer, Joel, reads your question. And Joel, who do you have a question from?
Clark, we got one from Matt. He says, this may sound stupid, but what are your thoughts of making a 2-year-old an authorized user of credit on a credit card with me? I'm very fiscally responsible, and I want to start building their credit history for a better financial future.
Why did you wait so long? 2 years old? You should have done this when they were 2 weeks old. No, there's no rush. And if you do want to make a child an authorized user on one of your cards to help them establish credit, the age most often recommended for people who like this idea is age 16, although 15, 16, 17, right in there. And then you help somebody start to establish a credit identity. They will start to develop potentially a score based on having a track record with that card, even though they may not ever be in physical possession of the card. Many issuers will report them as an authorized user, will report to the bureaus, helping them create that identity. But at 2, I don't know there's an advantage. There may be a disadvantage because an identity thief would have an even more juicy target of identity theft.
All right, since we're talking about kids right now, Sarah says, my son is going to be turning 1 next month. He already has plenty of toys, so I'd like to give him the gift of an investment. I was thinking that of one that he could have when he turns 18 or 21 would be a good idea. What type would be best?
Wow. So opening an investment account would be great. I was talking earlier about my favorite children investment houses. You could go open a kid's account at Charles Schwab and pop $100 into one of the Schwab funds. My favorite would be for a young child, the broad market ETF, exchange traded funds, kind of like a modern mutual fund. It costs no commissions to fund it. You can add to it as you wish. There's virtually zero fee charged to you. It's as close to zero as it could be for having the account. And by age 18 would be potentially a significant amount of money if you keep adding to it through the years. Wow, I love that question.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One, right after this.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson. President Obama harshly criticized Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump tonight during a rally in Greensboro, North Carolina. Obama said Trump has proven over and over again he is unfit to lead the country. Obama says in his races with Republicans John McCain and Mitt Romney, they disagreed on policy, but he never thought they weren't honorable. Obama is pitching the current presidential contest as different. He says Trump doesn't have the temperament or the judgment or the knowledge or apparently the desire to obtain the knowledge or the basic honesty that a president needs to have.
One of the benefits of defeat is to take some of the vanity out of what it is that you're trying to achieve.
President Obama's comments courtesy of ESPN's The Undefeated. AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson.